Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And thanks so much for being here with us this evening. As always, love to be here chatting with you guys. And, it is, dare I say, back to open water season. But I mean, I feel like there's been so much going on with the weather and the flooding and the rivers and the waterways and everything. And where normally, I don't know, it's a smoother transition to open water. But here we are. Finally, it looks like things are on the up and up. Hopefully. And fishing opener is coming up. And I know that people are always so excited about that. And I guess, do we even know what our plans are for the weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're going to go, we're at least going to hit some area lakes and just see what's happening. Maybe we'll even get on some lakes and follow Chris Hopper around. Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
But no, I think it's things are looking good. The water temps are looking good. We know that the walleyes and stuff in the rivers are post spawn for the most part, and things are moving. So I was out putting docks out at my job today, and water seemed pretty nice. We've seen Matt down on the Winnebago hitting some shallow panfish lately, so that's been nice. And we've seen a few white bass roll up on the camera on the Wolf River cam. So, everything's looking like it's pointing towards good spring bite for opener.
And you're actually making a really interesting point, is that I feel like, especially this time of the year, the river systems are a really fun place to watch, because when you have a place where maybe there's little resorts or bait shops or things along the way, it's always fun to see kind of how fishing progresses, through the weather patterns, through, I don't know, all the things they all post, and it's cool to see how that all goes. Because when you compare that to the lake, sometimes you have maybe a resort, sometimes a bait shop in the area, but I don't know, those river systems, all kinds of good information that get put out there. So gosh, I just love fishing out there.
Yeah, you reminded me. I think I want to go stop at the new Pelican Lake bait store. They opened up just at the end of the season last year, end of the open water season, and so I'm excited to go over there and say hi to those folks. Check that out, see how Pelican Lake's doing.
But I do have all kinds of questions about, I'm getting excited about the river system, the Wolf, Winnebago, all that kind of good stuff. And I know that our guest is an expert on that. So let's bring him in and just get to it. So Troy, thanks so much for being here this evening.
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So I called you Troy, and your name is Mr. Bluegill. So for people who might be just meeting you, can you introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself.
Sure. Troy Peterson, but most people call me Bluegill or whatever you want to call me. I'll answer to anything. I've been a full-time guide. Oh, let's see. This will be year 26 for me. And I actually grew up on Lake Winnebago. I lived 2 houses down from Paynes Point Hook and Spear Club with my dad. My grandma was on the East Shore, just down from High Cliff, right off the end of Farrow Springs Road that everybody pretty much knows if you fish Bago. And my uncle Dave had a place on Poygan. Now he's the one that's up on the river and just outside of New London. And family, uncles, grandmas, everybody pretty much lived on the water. So when I wasn't playing baseball as a kid, I was, somewhere fishing. And just been on this system and loving it ever since. And as much as I loved living on the lake, I'd never live back on the lake because I cannot stand the algae bloom. And I had enough lake flies in my childhood to last me a lifetime. So we live out in Watoma now. And the nice thing about the Watoma area is we've got so many just beautiful, pristine glacial lakes that have a variety of, kind of everything, but more importantly, bluegills.
So I guess, I always think of you as guiding on the Winnebago system. Is that true, or you're going beyond that?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm not one to I guess boast or anything like that, but I don't know of too many other guides in the state of Wisconsin that fish as many waters as what I do. I'll troll or go out on Lake Michigan for salmon. We're on Green Bay and all the tribs for walleyes. I fish a lot on Big Green Lake, Little Green, Marquette County, Waushara County, the Wapaka chain, and do some actually fishing up in Vilas and Oneida County too, where I kind of got my feet wet guiding, back 25 years ago. So I'm pretty well diversed, and this year probably not going to be doing a whole lot of traveling unless these gas prices come down.
Yeah, right.
That is for sure. But I guess I am really surprised to hear that you go so far. That's so cool. Because especially in a situation like this year where the Winnebago system is and the Wolf River, everything is flooded out, blown out. I don't even know. 100-year flood. I've heard so many different terms that I mean, do you remember anything like this, or is truly that historic?
2019 is probably the worst I had ever seen, and I believe short of 1979. And I hear about that all the time just because that was the year I was born. I've heard the stories of the 79 flood on the Wolf River, and truthfully, that was the worst up until this year. I've seen it, over the docks, but I've never seen. Nobody has. I mean, this year the water, it was the perfect storm. You had all that late season snowfall that had to melt, all the rains, and just everything kind of came together. And unfortunately, we were the ones to pay for it. And Mother Nature, always shows her might in the springtime with storms and rain and everything like this. But it's been very, very tragic to see what has happened in our community.
Certainly for the people, the homeowners, the
Mm-hmm.
businesses, it has been actually pretty shocking to watch. And I'm one of those people, I haven't driven through there because I don't want to get in the way, right? But it is nice to see waters finally receding. And
Yes.
now that people are kind of starting to, get to that recovery perspective, I guess, first of all, I should say there's a lot of really cool ways to support, whether that's your local bait shop, maybe that's a restaurant down there, because a lot of people do visit that area, go through tourism, all of that. And so check out on Facebook, because sometimes they have like cool, I don't know, they're doing all kinds of cool stuff right now to support the community. Sometimes raffles, sometimes this, sometimes that, but look for that because it's out there.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to be happening, different fundraisers and different places you can donate. The best places to check, go on Facebook and look for like the Fremont Area Chamber of Commerce, the New London Chamber of Commerce. April, I've been talking with her. She's been doing a fantastic job keeping everybody updated and posted with different things for the New London area. And then, of course, Shiocton as well. And you hit it the kind of the nail on the head, and people don't realize how this affects the community. Right now we are in, the time of the year that a lot of these businesses make 90% of their income in April, May, and early June. And I know like some of the friends and people that, Clemens Resort there in Fremont,
Mm-hmm.
they've had so much structural damage that they can't even open. So it's going to be a life-changing event for a lot of people, whether it's houses, businesses, even myself. I mean, normally I'm booked every day of the week, April, May, and I out of respect for the people up there, I don't want to be taking a big boat and creating wake, doing more damage. Can we fish the lakes? Yes, but on the flip side, Oshkosh has been, not that much better. And the fish are now finally starting to come down, but during the heavy stages of that flooding, there was really no place to fish. And the landings around Fremont are still closed yet this weekend until they can check everything out, because a lot of the debris and stuff that came floating down has done a lot of damage to docks, to boat landings, to roads, you name it. It's affected everybody, and it's going to continue to affect a lot of people. So the minute you can, anybody can come to this area and go to the bars and buy a pizza, buy a burger, support these people as much as you can, because they're going to need it. And if you're willing to come and lend a hand, helping clean up, there's all kinds of people still looking for volunteers to help clean up and get rid of debris and everything else. So it's going to take probably a good summer here for us to get back to normal, and let's just hope that people can survive, being down this long. Because, even like myself, just a guide. I mean, I haven't lost anything other than, income. And it hurts, yes, but I'm just a minuscule point compared to what some of these other people are facing.
Mhm.
Well, and the other thing that I'm starting to just hear whispers of online is about that all this water that we're talking about, it's going to be pushing down through the rest of the system here. And so now all of a sudden I'm starting to hear about, Winneconne area. Oh, all the docks are underwater, all
Mhm.
these other places that people were thinking that they could go to. Those are kind of situations that are ever changing.
Yep. So the water's been coming down about 4 to 6 inches per day, which is awesome. I mean, we've really needed it. In Winneconne, as of yesterday, I was in there yesterday, and the water in Winneconne is down probably about a foot. So they're starting to get to be in the clear. The docks are like right at water level right now.
Mm.
So you can launch a boat, I think, in Winneconne without getting your feet wet. Fremont, on the other hand, is, you're still going to get wet, trying to dock a boat. Oshkosh, and then the lower Fox going through Little Lake Butimore. That's where the mess is right now. And it's funny, you hate to like point fingers or anything like that, but man, oh man, when you've got a series of events taking place and people know that the river flows south
Mm.
and that all that water is going to come down to you, if you didn't heed the warnings, shame on you for not preparing. And it sucks to say that, but really, this was an event that they were talking about, and warning people all the way down through the rivers to make sure you start sandbagging, start preparing. And now the people that did that in Fremont and New London, it just got so bad that it overtook a lot of these berms and sandbags that these people put up. I've got video from before Fremont really got to the high point of a bunch of cottages with berms built all the way around, big pumps pumping the water that was kind of seeping through, and nobody expected this water to climb 3-4 feet over the tops of these berms. And when I went back, when it was just about ready to crest, all those houses, all that time and effort that they put into some of those sandbags was lost because the water just got so high and they lost the battle. So it just sucks. The one thing I will say, talking to a lot of people on the river, and I know I post a lot of videos and pictures from some of my friends that are up in around the cutoff, and up in New London, Fremont area. Everybody that really came together, is we cried a lot. I mean, not so much for the loss, but for what we seen. All these people showing up that nobody knew who they were. I mean, they were strangers just coming in to help, and that's pretty emotional, and it really touched a lot of people. So it just goes to show that there's still some good in this world.
That is actually, I'm so glad
Mhm.
that you shared that, because especially sometimes during this early season, walleyes, you hear bumper boats, you hear, parking lots full and jammed. And to be honest, I think in a lot of years, this is kind of, people start off the year with a lot of bickering. So it's nice to hear some of the opposite going on, and hopefully that sportsmanship continues through the rest of the open water season and beyond, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I also have to ask, and I know that you're not a biologist, I guess, or a fish, but here's, I guess, what with the walleyes, and they spawned and all of this current, and they were able to get to places they couldn't, and all this heavy flow. I mean, what are your thoughts on the year? Is this, people had no boats, it was a great year, or like with the conditions, it was terrible? Where are we at?
So the up run was fantastic. Some of the best fishing, we've seen in a long time. The walleyes, we've got a great year class right now. We're seeing a lot of those 16 to 18, 19-inch fish in the river, which is great for anglers. I mean, perfect eating size fish. There are a lot of the smaller, 13, 14-inch males too. But it's going to be hard to say. Like you said, I'm not a biologist, but I've been doing this long enough, and I followed the hatches, and read all the reports and everything from over the years. And typically when we have a flood year, the walleye spawn or the hatch, depending on how things set up, Everybody says, oh, the water's high, the fish can get, everywhere, the marshes are full. Well, that's a kind of a catch-22, because when it gets that high, yes, these walleyes, these sturgeon, they'll go and find the warmest, shallowest water they can find, lay their eggs, and if that water starts to recede, those eggs get trapped and they die, and you get nothing. So on a typical high water year, with major flooding, the spawns are not really that good. Now, this year, probably a little bit different, because the water stayed high for so long that the fry actually, they hatched, and they, will just follow the current, and that water just kind of naturally funnels down, and they're going to follow that water too. And it's going to be hard to say. I know the sturgeon, they were moving around, a lot of sturgeon that were, swimming in people's front yards and cornfields and everything else. And, they were laying eggs there. So, those are probably lost eggs at this point. I guess once we get to fall and they do the trawling, it's either going to be one for the record books, or it's just going to be a mediocre year. So it'll be hard to say, but I will say, the water came up at the right time. The temperatures were the right time. Everything was set up to be an absolute perfect spawn. It's just a matter of, okay, did these fry swim up to the cornfields in people's front yards, or did they follow the current and, and actually going to make it? So we'll see.
Yeah.
I thought for sure you were waiting to say something.
I was good. Yeah. I was thinking the same exact thing. Like the water has been high. It's currently still high. Like, you mentioned previously, Fremont still has water at the top of the docks. So, I mean, like that, when it recedes that slowly, it gives those fry a chance. So I think we'll probably have a pretty decent year. There's going to be loss. We talk about all the structural and human devastation, but then there's also the ecological aspect of it, right? We've seen a lot of stuff like fish rescue, getting some of those sturgeon and stuff out of yards and fields. But then there's also stuff like the clams and, all those little stuff where they're having groups of people go around and collect those. You can see which ones are alive and which ones are dead and pitch them back into the river. Because those, imagine being a clam and you're sitting like 6 inches under the mud, and then all of a sudden you just feel yourself go whoop, and you're just like, and there's huge beds of them, right? And so there's all kinds of stuff that we're gonna see what happens going on in the future here. But
I honestly think the Wolf River, as we knew it before this happened, is changed. From the little bit I've been talking, and guys that have been able to get out, when all that current was coming through, it's erosion, man. You can't stop it. I mean, hydraulic pressure of water is so strong, and it will always, create its path and take the path of least resistance. It's nature. And when you start looking at what's happened, there were areas of the woods where the current, instead of taking the bend, it didn't have to. It cut right through the woods and created another river channel. I honestly think we're going to see a lot of changes on the Wolf River, that may be permanent. And it's going to be interesting to see once everything does recede, where the river's flowing and stuff like that. But I've got friends that have rafts out right now that normally the current's really strong on their bend. It's slack water because the river made a new channel going through the woods, and that's just the way that it's going. It's going cutting right through, and it's going to be interesting to see really what happened.
I can hear Emily's thought from here. All she's thinking about is, oh man, all those new bayous I can go fish bluegills. That's what she's thinking. I can hear it from here.
Okay, you know probably better than anybody else. Is like, the thing is, the river system is well known for walleyes, the white bass run, go and catch smallies. I don't know, there's tons of great opportunities in there. That's awesome. But when you really start to tear through the river system, get to those back bayous, look at the different depths, what has depth where, you can really, there is really some panfish in those river systems like people don't even know about. And so, the bluegills, the crappies, sometimes people catch like dinks here and there off a patio or I'm in a dock somewhere. But like that's the thing is you go into those back and you're talking about like this wood structure, all those trees. It's like, ooh.
Oh, we're going to be fighting that all summer long, probably for years to come. All the trees that were laying down in the woods all floated out. There were wood piles that were, 4, 5, 6 not face cords of wood that were stacked up nice and neat. Water came up, floated. There's millions of pieces of wood floating around on this system right now. There is a lot of debris. There's a lot of brush. There's a lot of tree stumps. There's docks. There's propane tanks. There's gas tanks. I've seen patio furniture. I've seen, you name it. If it was in your backyard, it's in the river and it's gone.
Oh my gosh. That's wild. Oh my gosh. So I guess, do you happen to know like where water temps at right now?
Yep. So out on Winnebago, I had 57 degrees yesterday. And up in the river, pretty much about the same. We're sitting at about that 55 to 58 degrees. We've had a couple really cold nights. We're actually had a freeze warning again tonight. Cool things down a little bit, but with how high the current is or how fast the current is and how much water is out there, the one thing I'll say is that this water warmed up abnormally fast this year. And when you think about it, we boil maple syrup, right? Surface area over heat is what warms our water and boils that much faster. When you take all this water and spread it out and make it really shallow all over this, dark mud, cornfields and stuff like that, that sun is just baking that shallow water, heating it up, and things are way ahead of schedule right now. Normally, we'd start seeing the white bass come up around that first week of May, and they've been coming up already for the last like week and a half or so. So it's going to be an interesting year, I think, all the way around as far as with the water temperatures being warmer than what they should be. And with all this high water, these fish have got a lot of places to swim to, a lot of places to hide, new areas to fish. And, that's kind of what we're starting to see too, now that we're starting to migrate back up into the upper lakes, is that there's fish everywhere.
Well, and as an angler, I mean, to be honest, that's good and bad, because when we talk about people being stuck in patterns, you're coming to the river to fish for this, like this, some people, they all have different ideas, and, and maybe everyone will have a little bit of luck this year. But I guess that's a good point, is like, as somebody who is coming to the area, so then like, where do you start?
The biggest thing I can tell you is if you go visit, any of the local bait shops, most of these guys are going to help you out. They want you to be successful. They want you to buy bait. They want you to keep coming back. So if you go and talk to the bait shops, great. I'm giving my reports pretty much daily or every other day as far as, kind of what I'm seeing. Again, I have not been up in the river just out of respect for the landowners and such. I will be up there after this weekend. We have our first Bag of Walleye Club tournament, and which was nice. They stopped it at the railroad bridge at the mouth of the river in Oshkosh, so nobody can go upriver, which is a smart thing to do. So that means we're going to be out back in the lake, and there'll probably be a lot of people at the mouth of the river trying to catch all those big females that are still coming down. But right now, until we get through, I'd say it's always that week after Mother's Day where you start to see kind of everything really back into the lakes. There's going to be a lot of walleyes coming down. They're still coming down by the hundreds in New London. A lot of people catching a lot of fish on the wrasse, which tells us that, fish are still coming down. And they'll make their way back on into Winneconne. Winneconne's been, a great bite for the last week and a half. That's really been the only spot I've been able to get out to, short of Oshkosh. And now we're starting to finally see some fish coming down through Oshkosh here this last week and get back out into the lake. So for people looking to go out this weekend, if you're looking for walleyes, I would first place I'd probably send somebody is Winneconne. You can pull flies in Winneconne, you can vertical jig, you can drag crawlers, just about anything you want to do really in the river. The boat landings are good. Then from there, down into Oshkosh, if you're a lake fisherman and you like to slip bobber, the walleyes are starting to set back up on top of the rocks, and they're kind of in that post spawn bite on Winnebago, and doing some trolling along the shallow rocks. And if you get any bit of sunshine, I can't stress it enough, just fish shallow, because those fish are just going to go find the warmest water they can. And not only for themselves, but that's where primarily all the minnows have been as well. So we've been out kind of just looking for crappies and bluegills and such up in the channels and up in the shallow bays and that. And we're seeing a few, but we are seeing a ton of shiners. And that was a problem last year and pretty much all winter with how much bait's out on the Winnebago system. And we're seeing quite a bit of that still this spring.
I actually even I saw Wolf River Cam commented earlier, and there's some posted video of the shad running up too, and so that can always like affect the fishing, because those are some big snacks running upriver too.
Yeah, and that's something new. I mean, we haven't. Last year was the first year in probably 10 years, maybe, that I've seen shad. They just all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere. It's like, okay, either the DNR put a bunch of them in here and didn't say anything to try and get them to come back, or somehow they just magically reappeared, because they have not. I mean, even on the trawling, I don't think they've really even caught anything on the trawlers for the last like 8 years. And now all of a sudden, these last 2 years, shad have just kind of come out of the woodwork. And that's great, because it's a great food source for not only the sturgeon, but for the walleyes as well. It'll take a little bit of the stress off of them eating all the perch.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, so I was talking with somebody earlier this week, and you may or may not know anything about this, but do you have any spring tips for if people wanted to catch catfish?
Well, I can tell you they're in the river right now.
Yeah.
Guys are, I had some clients that were staying in Fremont right on the river, and they were catching a bunch of big channels off the docks just with cut bait and stink bait. So it typically kind of how it goes. And again, because everything's warmer than normal, I think these catfish came up early too. Normally you get the walleye run and then the sturgeon, and then the white bass, and then as soon as all that's kind of like the walleyes and the white bass and everything are finally all coming down, that's typically when the catfish go up. And right now we're seeing, when we're even driving over the tops of these deeper holes, we're seeing a bunch of catfish stacked up. Find any deep hole and just throw out some river rigs with some, Uncle Sonny's stink bait, and drink a few beers and wait for the rods to go.
There you go. That's kind of what I told them too.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is well, and there's some big ones out there.
There is. I mean, the Wolf River is a riot for a lot of set lines, and it seems like every year it's getting earlier and earlier. Guys go try and stake out their claim as far as where they're going to put their set lines, and there's a lot of them out there. A lot of guys fish the channels, and and then once we get into flathead season, that's my favorite. Not only for eating, but to catch some of these big flatheads is an absolute riot. And if you can find some yellow belly bullheads or some bluegills and go sit in some of these wooded holes, and this year, hopefully the water stays high, because that'll really make for some good catfishing later this summer with some of those deeper holes. It'll just hold a few more fish, and that's kind of become one of my new favorite things to do is fish cathead or fish flatheads on the system.
Yeah, well, and if I know anything about the wolf, I know that if the water stays high and the catfishing is good, the pan fishing is good too. Because every time we have a good water summer, the guys down on the lake are like, "Oh, where are all my bluegills?" And I'm just like, "Over here."
That is funny. You had mentioned earlier that you guys were having, I don't know if you said a frost or a freeze warning tonight, but it is getting really cold. So we're talking about these warm water temperatures. Is this, kind of cold front going to change things, or things are just, all the fish are still pretty driven because it's early in the season?
I think it's going to slow it down a little bit. I mean, it typically does, and we're in the middle of getting ready for that full moon phase too, which is never this full moon after the post spawn is always one of the worst. And it happens to be right in the middle of our tournament, which sucks. But these fish are feeding all night long right now, and the cold front, you just gotta just slow it down a little bit, and then just you look for those water temperature changes. I talk about this a lot in my ice fishing seminars too, and it pertains true, all summer long. 1 degree to a fish is like 10 degrees to a human. So when you can find just that single degree variance up on some shallow rocks or, out of the current or some slack water that's starting to warm up quicker, fish those areas because that's where the bait's going to be. And obviously the walleyes are going to be right behind them, trying to put some pounds back on after doing all the work over the last few weeks spawning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I know that you've been bringing this up kind of quite a few times, but I think it's an important point is finding that warm water, and that being where the fish are, and even that 1 degree being a difference. And I was going to say, that's important. Use your electronics. Your graphs will have that. But why that's important is because this is not a situation where you need a fancy, big, new, whatever graph. This is not live imaging. This is not anything new to people. I mean, these are the basics of fishing, and so look at that water temperature, keep track of where it's at. And, sometimes even with the wind, if you're on a lake, the wind will blow that water. And sometimes you'll find on that wind blown side that warmer water or, wherever it is, but look around because where you find that is where those fish will be.
100%. And, as much as everybody loves forward facing sonar, yep, I've got a couple of them. I haven't even put mine on my boat yet this year.
Yeah.
It's still on my ice bundle. I'm just not a forward facing sonar guy. I love my side imaging. And if I can find them on my side imaging, then I'm going to fish them just like I would any other day. And I don't know. To me, you could take or leave forward facing. I love it for summertime basin fishing, looking for the bluegills and the crappies and such on some of our smaller lakes. That's an awesome tool for that. But once we find them, I don't sit there and snipe them and just like, okay, to me, that's just not fishing. It takes away a lot of the fun. But it is a great tool, and I won't take it away from anybody. Anybody can use it, whatever they want to do. That's their prerogative. I'm just saying I'm not one of those guys.
Well, and I think I think we're very similar to that. We have one too, and we like to use it to speed up the finding a little bit, especially on those tough days. Sometimes you just know, you show up at a body of water that you fish regularly, and you're like, okay, these are the conditions, and then you can drive over somewhere, and you're like, if they're not here, then they're not here. Like they're gonna be here, whether I have a forward facing or not. I think what I found about it is it becomes a little cumbersome to use, right? Because it's a little bit of a setup, and you're like, it's so much focus on it, and I just find myself thinking like, man, that's a lot more work than it's worth. I'd rather just like drive around and do some fishing, rather than like try and get all that set up. But sometimes, if it's a rough day, it's kind of nice to have.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great tool to have in the boat. Like I say, I need to get that on the boat here for the tournaments this weekend. And it's just a matter of a couple screws, putting it back on. But just give me my side imaging and I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Well, and all those fish that are hiding in the brush, you can't see them anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and believe it or not, we're missing some of my favorite fishing to do every year is when these walleyes go up into the woods, all the trees and stuff up by New London. There's a particular area that is just always loaded with fish, and it's kind of been I don't want to call it a secret because I know some other guys do it, but guys will go and cast crankbaits in the trees and whatnot. But the first year I ever figured this out, we were, once the frogs start, peeping, you get all those frogs, chirping in the trees and in the woods, and you catch a few fish along the edges of the river channel, and you go home, you clean them, and they got frogs in their bellies. It's like, okay, let's match the hatch. So we're, painting hair jigs to look like frogs. And I'm like, why not just fish frogs? I mean,
Yeah.
we're trying to recreate the wheel here. And it's like they've already got a lot of frogs and stuff already out there. So Texas rig style some frogs and throw them into the trees. And we absolutely annihilate the snot out of walleyes. And then I've gone as far as fishing topwater frogs and trying to get those walleyes to eat a topwater frog. And it's some of the funnest fishing I think I do all year long.
Yeah.
These walleyes will jump out of the water like a bass to eat these frogs. And you swear you're catching smallies, but they're typically bigger walleyes.
That's
and
awesome.
it is a riot. But we haven't been able to get up there because of the flooding. And I think by the time it gets down far enough, that water's probably, or the fish will probably be, gone or long gone. And we're going to miss that. But you want to talk about something that nobody really does or really seen is go start throwing topwaters for walleyes.
Well, I mean, okay, but that is so cool because when we talk about it, again, almost back to a very basic principle, you always hear match the hatch. And so what is hatching right now? Like literally like frogs are coming out, and actually we were just talking about before the show, we were talking about catfish a little bit. So that's funny. But I was like, throw worms out there because, as soon as the ground thaws out and all those worms come out and, it just, so you got to really take that minute and think like, okay, in a little while that minnow bite's going to keep picking up because more is going to hatch, and so all kinds of different things work through the seasons. You can get lucky on this or that, but to really take that minute and look and like come up with frogs, that's awesome.
Well, and you bring up a good point too, because I totally forgot to mention this the other day, but we were out working. We're setting up some fish antennas for work. We're doing this fish movement study from last year. And we were out there the other day and there was whole night crawlers just like washing down. Like we were in the river and we just see whole night crawlers and they just like, because the water's been so wet. So they're just trying to get out. And then some of them just end up in the, come out into the river. And so it was like, I haven't seen that very often myself where you get to see just like a free floating night crawler, but that, that it happens a lot more than you would think. And so like, you think, oh, let's go fish minnows, but like night crawler, that's
every one of those night crawlers is 50 cents floating down the river.
Right?
Just remember that.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. It must have just fallen in, otherwise the fish would have eaten it for sure.
That for people that really question, and I get that question a lot, is what should we be using once that water temperature hits 50 degrees? Put the minnows away and start getting crawlers or leeches if you can get the leeches, because they'll make that change. Doesn't mean you're not going to catch fish on minnows. It just means that once that water temperature hits 50 degrees, it's usually that kind of mental thing that these fish go through, that they'll start looking for other food versus the minnows, and they love crawlers. And the other thing too is when you're fishing these dirty rivers or after this rain and all this high water, if things get dirty again, crawlers have a lot more scent than what minnows do. And walleyes love smelling their food, and it can be a game changer sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
One time, Josh and I, this is a really long time ago, we were fishing at Winneconne and nobody was catching anything. It was just so slow. And there were fish down there. I don't know what was going on, right? But I was like, you know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to put on a worm and a leech. And this thing, it looked so stupid. It was like all Frankenstein together, a worm and a leech. And you know what happened is I put that down, caught a fish.
Bam. It's always the women doing crazy things.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
Josh disagrees.
Yep.
Okay. Anyways, that's probably not the place to start, right? If you're coming to the river or the waterway this weekend. But either way, like we're saying, find that warm water and get to going. And I guess, I don't know, did we talk about this? Are white bass still going, or that's kind of...
It's just getting started.
Yeah.
So the white bass have been coming up through Oshkosh, right now, and making their way through through Winneconne and into the river. And if you start to watch some of the cameras on the river, they're starting to show up even up in New London. So they're going to be, I'm going to say about a week and a half early. Now, if we get some cold weather and the 10-day forecast looks fairly cool. So that probably is going to slow the spawn down a little bit. I was concerned with how things were progressing and how fast the water was warming, that these fish were going to come up and they were going to spawn and turn right back around and be gone. And there wasn't going to be much happening in the river. And that may still happen just because of how high the water is. These fish can go into some of the, areas outside of the river and, and spawn in places that, we'd never be able to get to in normal years. So it's going to be interesting, and I'll definitely keep people updated. But like I said, I haven't gone up the river to check just because of the high water, and it should drop enough by the end of this weekend. And I've been concentrating out in the lake pre-fishing anyway for the walleyes. So just once they said no river, that pretty much ended everything up there. And I've just been spending a bunch of time down on Bago.
Well, and that's a good point, because is it this coming weekend that the tournament was moved down to Oshkosh? So it's going to be an extra busy weekend down on the waterway.
Yeah, this year is this time of the year. There's so many tournaments happening, bass, walleye, and with everything being moved to Oshkosh or to the lake, it's just going to put that much more pressure out there. But Winnebago's 144,000 acres. I mean, there's a lot of water to fish. It just so happens that everybody's going to be fishing probably in the same spots. And we just got to kind of deal with it. But go look, because there's walleyes that stay out in the lake all year long. And there's plenty of fish outside of the river mouth in Oshkosh to go catch. It's just a matter of how much work people really want to put in.
Well, and I'm fully convinced that the whole you have to get up early to catch fish thing is really only about so you can get a spot in the parking lot.
That's turning out, we're finding, I'm fortunate enough to be able to fish 7 days a week. And I tell you what, some Wednesdays are busier than a Saturday.
Yeah.
I swear to God, nobody works anymore.
That's so funny. So for people who aren't working or have time off or whatever, do you still maybe have days open if people are looking for a guide?
Yes, I have a lot of openings got opened up just because of people having to cancel because their VRBOs or cottages are now closed for the rest of the year because of damage. So please, if anybody wants to come up and fish, myself and a lot of the guides that are out, we would really appreciate any business we can get right now. Yeah, I mean, give me a call. There's walleyes to be caught. There's panfish. The white bass run is going to get hot and heavy here. And that is absolutely one of my favorite times of year to fish. I don't think you can have as much fun standing up as you can catching 3 white bass at a time on a fly rig. So I'm looking forward to it. I just want to get back to some normalcy, and I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, that is for sure. And I think Josh is actually taking the link to your website and posting in the comments there. Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a cool website. It was just pulled up on the side, so people should go and check that out. And definitely reach out to you for a day coming up for the summer, because that's going to be a whole lot of fun. And hopefully we'll bump into you, I don't know, one of these days. That'll be awesome.
It's funny. All these people that we all talk to, right, that are in the fishing industry, we're all like, hey, let's get together and go fish. But it never happens.
No.
I've been talking to people for 30 years, like, hey, I'll come over and fish with you. You come over and fish with me. And we still haven't got together yet. Right. Even people that are, friends that are local that, we've been trying for 20 years to get in a boat together, and just, it's so hard. So yeah, if you guys want to come down for a day and whack on some white bass, let me know. We'll go shoot some video and have some fun.
Sweet.
But you're bringing the fish home to clean them.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here this evening with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I appreciate what you guys do. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the ice show again next year. And I know Dan was just messaging me the other day about seminar speaking. We kind of had a rough
Sweet.
March, and our family's gone through a lot here in the last month and a half too. So we're all kind of glad to be back into some normalcy and some health stuff put behind us, and we can all move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again. It's been so good to talk to you. You always give us such good information, and I'm so excited for the weekend to get out on the water, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Pray for some calm waters, a little bit of light ripple, and just anything above, I guess, 38 degrees will be fine.
It would be fine. Yeah.
Oh God.
I always say April 21st is my birthday, and up until last year, it was 13 years in a row we had snow either on or within a few days of my birthday. And last year was the first year we didn't, and this year we had it the week before.
Yeah.
But I always try and put all my winter gear away, put my flip-flops on, and I don't care how cold it is. Once I get in the boat after my birthday, it's flip-flop time. And some days I gotta bring out my emergency pair of socks just to keep my feet from freezing.
Yeah.
But
Both socks.
Both socks. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, hopefully the people at home thought it was awesome as well. And hopefully you also have boat socks. Get ready for the weekend. Bring all of your layers and all of your tackle and all of your things, because open water season is upon us.
Yes, ma'am.
Cannot wait. And if you guys have a fishing report, let us know what your water temperatures are, what you're fishing for, how that's going for you, because we always love to hear that. And otherwise, we'll give you our report on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.